Rasa web channel. We are very happy and fortunate to have legendary Guru Srimati Chitra Visweswaran with us. Namaskaram Akka.
Namaskaram, Divya.
Please speak about the highs and lows of your journey with your art.
Yes, today life has become very fast. And sometimes I wonder, what are we running for? Why do we no longer have the time to stop, to think, to reflect, to visit, to revisit? Because that is how the general scene is and has been around us. That I can still learn from the past. And it is not as though our productions that we once did are once and for all done with. I think as we experience life, even as we learn more and more through our experiences and interactions and collaborations, when we look back, we must revisit our work. These experiences can enrich our work. We must reflect, we must revisit, because after all, we are no longer the same person. We have evolved. And the way I looked at something, say, 40 years ago, will definitely not be the way I look at it now. Every moment of dancing is a high to me. Because I always say, you don't need anything if you're a dancer or a musician. That takes you to that height. And at sometimes that height is absolute spiritual sublimation, is in a handshake with the divine. So, there are highs, there are lows, there are moments, maybe, I always find in different situations, different moments come to my mind. So it all depends upon what I am and what state I am at that point in time.
Wonderful. Do you remember your first ever performance, Akka? What was your feeling when you were on the stage for the first time?
Well, like all of us do, even before we go on to the stage for arrangement or full performances, I used to do these small, tiny little pieces in the school day and annual day functions. What was different in my case was that it was in England, because my father was posted there at that time, and my mother, fearing that I may not develop any interest in Natyam as in Bharatiya Natyam, she would teach me small pieces. She was trained in the Uday Shankar School of Dance and Rabindra Nritya, and used to come to Chennai and Naidu to learn Abhinaya pieces. So I looked around and I started crying and I refused to dance. So in India, my first experience at the age of 7, I refused to go on stage.
No path is smooth and no journey is easy. When we talk about rough path a person has travelled, there would have been so many hardships and situations which could have proved challenging. What was it that hit you the hardest and how did you fight back?
In Tamil we have a beautiful saying, Veetukku Veedu Vaashapadi. And in English it is, every person has a cross to bear. I had a younger brother, just 2.25 years younger than me. So, I didn't realize the import of this until I was much older. This boy was born normal, and at the age of 3 he got an attack of plain polio in England. And he lost his speech and mental retardation automatically set in. And what is so interesting is the theatre arts and crafts are used by Rasa for giving a new lease of life, for empowering the children and adults in Rasa. It is an exceptionally great work that is being done, because for a long time, all these years of dancing, for me, dance was a prayer. I would perform, I would travel the world over. The highs I went into were inexplicable, but certain things which we all as human beings take for granted, there are some who do not have it. Who do not have it. And what happened, I remember once, was Arun was constantly visiting the bathroom. So I called Ambika and said, what has happened to him? Why is he constantly visiting the bathroom? Is he ill? She said, no, do you have a big mirror? I said, yes. She said, he's practicing Abhinaya. Now you and I practice Abhinaya to perform on stage. But when Arun was taught Abhinaya and made to practice, I realized the next day that he hates Pongal. And slowly I came to understand he doesn't like this food, he likes this, he enjoys this. The emotions on his face, which Rasa has done.
Wow.
So with the blessings of my Guru and with the great work of Ambika and Rasa, this child, to me he's still a child. This child who hated the world and who used to attack me so much because there must have been sibling jealousy. This child has become such an epitome of love.
कलास्वरूप रमणोत्सवम् 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 उत्सवम् 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 रमणोत्सवम् रमणोत्सवम् उत्सवम्
Parapaksham, no difference. There is nobody high, nobody low. He will kiss a baby, he will kiss a grandpa. He will embrace all. And that love that flows out of him is so selfless. So I think I am blessed as my brother.
Wonderful experience.
Grateful to Mataji and to Ambika and the team of Rasa for making it possible for him to be with me. Another thing that I would like to share with everybody is, from childhood, my parents had always told me, look at the half full glass, not at the half empty. And I also remember in one instance when my paternal grandmother was very upset that Arun was the way he was. When I used to go and visit him in the Institute of Mental Health, she once asked me, don't you feel sad to see Arun like this? That's why I never go to visit him. Then I remembered what my parents said. Look at someone who is less blessed than you. Then you will learn to count the blessings God has given you.
Yes, sure, Akka. With so many productions that have been recorded, would you tell us about the one you first staged? How did it feel to have a masterpiece sculptured in your hand? Where did you stage it and how was the response?
The first big production, I had done smaller pieces of choreography even in my teens, but this was a big major production, was Devi Ashtarasa Balika in 1980. It was on Vijayadashami Music Academy.
Wow.
It wasn't for the Music Academy, of course, but in that hall. You see, I had always been very fascinated by the Soundarya Lahari, and being an avid reader, comparative study and everything, and I finally felt I would like to take the essence from from the Soundarya Lahari and find relevant texts from different languages to illustrate them. That is, this is the 51st stanza. You must be knowing it. Shive Shringara Khatati Karajini Kutsanampara. The eyes of Ambar and the 8 rasas as emanating and being established by those eyes. So for each rasa, I took a different from a different language. For instance, what comes to my mind immediately is for Raudra from Autumn Tulla. So we had something from Malayalam. Then we had Sanskrit verses to illustrate. Then we had just for Hasyam, just a Tilana and just Pandatam before that, just rhythm. So all that wasn't there so much in those days. Now you all are such brilliant choreographers, you youngsters. We have a lot to learn from you, I sometimes feel. And different types of music, different types of languages, texts, just Vachika, all these went in together. My husband tuned the whole thing. Those days he wasn't singing for me. Setu Raman sir and TV Sundarali sang. So it was a beautiful experience, and I was playing Devi throughout, and I had to have rehearsal for my costume changes because I had as little as 30 seconds to change costume. So practice it, the group and the group would have a little more time to change. And my changes really had to be like that. So we even timed that, and I wore 13 costumes in that production. Wow. And certain things which nowadays have become more prevalent, those days we used to have what is called Chinnanapatti sarees. I don't know whether they are still woven or it used to be 30 rupees a saree. So I remember getting plain white and asking Savita Radhakrishna of Abrapali to print borders.
Oh, okay.
So because that was it was for Pandata and Tilana. So I thought, let's bring in a Pandatam flavor through the costume. Let's be different. And it's not as though, if you try to relate to Devi, mine would have a little zari and all the Sakhis would have just a printed border. Mine would have printed border plus a little zari. So we had unusual costumes like that. unusual music, unusual text. It was a runaway hit actually. Uh, I still remember some people who came could not get seats, important people, and they were very upset and they left. But I still remember one thing. Krishnaveni Lakshmanan, a dancer whom I admire very much from Chitra, she said, dance drama irundha ipdi irukanum. This was the biggest sort of, it was like getting an MPhil degree for me because Chitra and Krishnaveni approving of a dance drama, I was really high. But now when I look back, I feel it was very juvenile and I revisited it and I reworked on it. But thanks to the searing prices of jewelry and material and tailoring, I could not retain the costume changing, and with time becoming more and more restricted, we could do it for 2.5 hours those days. We had to keep editing, so you know that what did get sacrificed was finally the costume changes, which were very symbolic and suggestive. It was I worked on this with my Tamil and Sanskrit teacher H. Vaidyanathan. We used to regularly read every day, both of us. He used to come, have breakfast and come, and we used to regularly sit and read anything, not just for the sake of our production, but we just sit reading Sanskrit, reading Tamil, so that I would also go deeper into the languages.
For you to reach your chosen goal?
Very simple, my passion for it. Which is it. I would just like to share one thing. When who was it? When the Sistine Chapel was being painted, and who was it? Who painted the Sistine Chapel? Leonardo da Vinci. He was lying on his back on the scaffolding. For 12 years he was painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. His concubiness keep asked him, what is this passion that you have for this painting? What is this love that keeps you here, painting day after day? He turned around and told her, this is a love beyond everything. It is a passion you cannot understand. So I think everybody in my place will understand what I mean.
Yes, sure. Of all the blessings one could have, moments lived with our Guru is something to treasure. Tell us about one memorable experience with your Guru.
We can talk about, we tend to speak of our Natyacharyas as gurus, but they are our acharyas. They teach us the art, they awaken us to the beauty of it. For instance, with Rajalakshmi teacher, my foundation was so strong. She was such a traditionalist, and she always used to say, I am not very creative. I cannot compose and teach you. You see, those days choreography as a word did not exist. I cannot compose and teach you anything. I will teach you what I have learned sincerely. Now I realize what a big gift that was. And I went to Varura for my scholarship. And Varura, Ramyapare, absolute radical. He would, he was in so many ways, he pushed the envelope to such an extent. He was so creative. And he would awaken that taste for aesthetics. Even the sounds of nature. It wasn't like, listening to the sounds of nature, you would hear the cuckoo singing, and this shajamam, this rishabam. He wouldn't say, look, the cow is mooing, it's a pakar shabam. He wouldn't talk like that. He wouldn't say, look out of the way. He wouldn't say, look at the tree, it bends in this angle. Nowadays we also tend to say at 45 degrees and right angles, we tend to talk like that. He would just come and he would sit with his puja box in front of him and he'd sit and he'd just say, for hours he would sit and talk. And some of we've only 3 of us learning from him under the scholarship there. They would say, others would say, why is he wasting everybody's time? He's talking, but pearls of wisdom, if you actually put it through a sea. Then he would say, look out of the window, or Tamil, look out of the window, see how the creeper moves in the breeze. That was a lesson in grace. Then he would say, don't keep jabbering and talking when you're going home. Think. What did that think mean? It would mean internalize. See, now we use a lot of words, but he was such a visionary, and how he transmitted it to us gave a totally different view of the whole arena. But then, your Natyacharyas can take you to this distance. They can guide you, they can awaken you, they can teach you, they can inspire you. But in my personal experience, it is my spiritual guru, Mataji Vidya, who entered my life at a very, very important point, because I just lost my mother at that time. And she's a great connoisseur of dance and music and theatre. Very aesthetic person, very simple person. You wouldn't even believe that she is a repository of so much spirituality till you see her face. It was extremely simple. After she entered my life and held my hand and guided me forward, till then this expression is dance is spiritual, dance elevates you. All these terms were there in my life. And yes, I was always in a high when I danced. So for me it was a great experience. But making all these an experience slowly is entirely because they no longer remain statements, empty statements, but they all became an experience. And the fact that our energy is part of this cosmic energy of which we have no knowledge, we really know that, and we are but conduits, dawns on you again and again. The awakening of the Anandamaya Kosha has been done by Mataji Vidya, and now I am in a constant state of joy.
So many performers and gurus coming up with innovations added to the existing form of the art. What are your views on innovations? Do share some thoughts regarding your own work and its impact on society and lovers of the art.
Everyone tries change. I think the only constant in tradition is change. Otherwise, it becomes fossilized. Every person at some stage in their lives has pushed the envelope, has tried to do something. But that which stands the test of time has become part of tradition and is accepted by us. So it's not as though I have done something or you have done something. Each one has done it in their own way. And the best compliment is when you find that influence in someone else's work, you realize you have been successful.
As a teacher, as a guru, as a choreographer, as a performer, as a senior artist of this divine art form, what is your suggestions or advice to the young teachers like us or young performers at come?
Nothing is as paying finally in the long run as hard work and sincerity and dedication. It is very easy to get discouraged along the way when opportunities don't come your It is very easy to give up when you find a student who spent so many years on something, giving up the art form. It is difficult to emotionally keep balance. It is, there are many stages, but to all deserving gurus and performing artists get a chance. To be truthful, no. But I feel we should not give up. It is difficult. We should not give up. And I think each one of us in our own way, if we do our might towards it, if organizations like APE can come together with Prayatnam and we make the conscious effort of somehow giving some opportunities to everybody. Because, we have a channel like this now, dedicated culture. Now, Rasa has come forward with this idea. We give opportunities to youngsters who do not otherwise get an opportunity. It's a wonderful way of patting them on the back and giving them a chance. But, I don't think one should get too discouraged, because in those days, if we had one performance a month when we were youngsters, it was a big thing. But now, unfortunately, there's so much of competition and so much happening around, one always will tend to look at the other one and say, she has 4 performances I have. So I think that is why teachers like you are also getting together and giving more opportunities through a group production. Now, earlier dances never, except Kalakshetra, this group production was never there. So youngsters, young dancers should also be grateful to their gurus, their teachers. Let me use the word acharyas. They were their acharyas for putting up these productions, taking all the cost, taking all the trouble, because it's not inexpensive or easy to stage a production. So they are finding the wherewithal, they are putting in their energy, they are choreographing, and the young dancers should cooperate with their acharyas and understand what a great gift is being given to them.
Thank you very much for
Thank
your time,
you.
Akka.
It's a pleasure, always a pleasure to share thoughts about Natyam, and a greater pleasure to do it for Rasa.
Thank you, Oscar.